Good morning, Bodhisattvas. Here we are, day 3 of Samarango. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mukei, and hello to those of you online, although I can't see you, and hello to Enkyo Roshi. I hope you're doing well, and we send our best regards. It's great to see so many familiar faces, and some faces that I have yet to get to know. Roshi had asked me to share some words on our study text. And I, like the previous speakers, have been doing a bit of reminiscing myself. My first introduction to the Heart Sutra was in July of 2007 at the Village Zendo at 588 Manhattan. And I was part of a group that was studying Buddhist chaplaincy. And we ended our first session with the Heart Sutra. And I remember as the cadence was going on, I said, my gosh, it sounds like a heartbeat. Is that why they call it the Heart Sutra? And I was just very moved by that. And then my second experience, and third, was with you, Fugan, and you, Tokyo, at Wisdom House. Whenever we would, I think it was always Shuso Hosen, and you would both be drumming during the Heart Sutra. And those of us who went to Wisdom House, we were in a small little country house that was made of wood. And as we were getting on and on and on into the chant, the place was like reverberating. You could feel it in the fibers. And my third experience was I represent the Buddhist Zendo at the Buddhist Council of New York, and it was at an anniversary celebration. And both lay and ordained folks were there, and of course the Heart Sutra was chanted in many different languages. And what was interesting to me and very moving to me is that when it came to the Chinese chanting, it was very melodic, very smooth. So there was the spoken word, there was the earthquake, and then there was like a small breeze, just a breeze kind of brushing across your cheek. Those were my experiences of the introduction to the Heart Sutra. But most recently, a person who I've begun to have a lot of respect for is a woman author by the name of Rebecca Sonit. And she does a lot of her essays are free associations. And in one of her most recent books, The Far Away Nearby, she shares a moment when she is about to be treated for an illness that requires surgery. And the night before surgery, she goes out to dinner with some friends, and after dinner they go walking on the beach. And she says, quote, "On the firm wet sand at low tide, your footprints register clearly before the waves come and devour and take all traces of them away. I'd like to see the long line we leave behind. I sometimes imagine my whole life left that way, as each step was a stitch. A meandering line, sutras together, the world in some new way, as though we were walking as sewing, and sewing was telling a story." She goes on to say that the English and Latin word for sutra is sutra. And it comes from the Sanskrit sutra and the Pali sutta. They both have to do with sewing. The original sutras were sewn. Flat palm leaves were strung together by two sides of thread that tied the stiff, narrow pages like an accordion line. The books were copied by hand over and over again. Thus, the leaf became a book of knowledge held together and transmitted in a thread, in a line, in a lineage. The Heart Sutra, on one level, can be seen as the word that is said to have come from sewing, and it's in the binding of the leaves. On a metaphorical level, the sutras are words that run throughout all things and bind them together. And she uses the image of the stitch is like a flashing needle that keeps working through the existence. It's a living document. It's easy on retreat to get caught up in forms like form, or terms like emptiness, and terms like there's no separation. And after 8 days and 30 plus years, we still get stuck with those words. But the most important thing I think we need to begin to think about is this image of I love of a flashing needle. I have a friend who's a baker. His name is Michel, and he's also a Zen practitioner. And one day he was working in his bakery with some friends, and not friends, women employees, and they said, "Oh, Michel, you're such a nice guy. You know, when you die, I'm going to pray to God that you go to heaven." And he said, "Why on earth would you pray for me to go to heaven? I want to go to hell." And he says, they say, "Well, why would you want to go to hell?" He says, "Well, the people in heaven are doing quite well." He says, "I need to be in hell. There are a lot of people who are suffering, and that's where I need to be." This morning in Samu, Shuso was kind enough to share the news of a Palestinian activist who was murdered, who literally put his body on the line to help other people. And I think, and I wonder, what does the Heart Sutra look like in that situation? That flashing needle going through that pain. Our study text challenges us to look at the word no hindrance in the mind. And there's another translation that is called thought coverings. And there's a quote from the book that says, "What are those clothes that cover over our thoughts and put form to them?" It stops the flow of moment to moment, and something in our mind stops the flow of relationships. I think all of us in this room have thought coverings. I mean, as a man of color, I have a lot of thought coverings. But it's something that I see for me is a means of survival, a means of adaptation. But I also feel that it's important for us and for me to keep an eye on those coverings. The flashing needle of the Heart Sutra can offer some healing and clarity, and maybe some resolution. But more importantly, it can offer peace. Peace with an understanding that helps us to serve. The flashing needle carries a thread. It's the thread of the Buddha. It's transmission. So guess what? We got it. We got transmission. It's a lineage. It's face to face. Not words to face, but face to face. It's a conversation. It's alive. It's not in the book. It's alive. We're all expressions of the Heart Sutra. That's something for us to keep in mind, especially at this time, and especially in the world. The world needs to know that they're all part of a transmission that goes all the way back to India, and that nobody is left out, and that we serve one another in the simplest things. I had told a friend that I was here to support her during this retreat, and she replied in turn, "Well, I'm here to support you." There's the flashing needle. Originally, I thought when I came to this retreat, I was coming to something very familiar. You know, it's like going home. Well, forget about but like going for the holidays, you look for something that's, you know, Silent Night and all that stuff. And, but familiar in one sense and different in another. And during this period of time, this Heart Sutra can help us begin to move in this time of transition. Those of us who've sewn in this room know that when sewing is not a smooth thing, there's always something in the fabric that you've got to like grunt and groan to get the needle to the other side. And I think that's our practice. I think that's our practice, is to grunt and grow to the other side. But it's more important to realize that it is a living, that we are part of a living document. And so, we try to serve in the best way we can. So I leave it to Dogen to kind of sum it up for us about this time, about the flashing needle. And he would say, within death there is life. Within life there is death. When a cloud forms, it forms from the moisture and the temperature. And when the cloud disappears, it takes on a new form. May it be so. Zen.